Welcome back everyone. So if you're done with the exercise on simple past and past continuous tense, we can now continue with present perfect tense. Now let's remember one more time, when we are talking about perfect tenses, we are talking about a connection between two times. So perfect tenses, they always combine or make a connection between two times. So when you're saying present perfect tense, there is a link between present, of course present because this is a present tense. Present perfect tense is a present tense. You are setting up a link or you are making a connection between present and past. But here the important part is the present part, because this is a present tense and there's a connection with the past in this tense with all the functions. Now let's first have a look at the structure very shortly. Structure, as you might already know, is have, has plus verb 3. All right, so have, has, verb 3. Without have, has, you have no perfect tense or present perfect tense. Without verb 3, you have no present perfect tense. You need both of them. All right. Now, we will talk about so many functions of present perfect tense. So get ready, everyone. So first function is for states. First of all, not activities. For states that started in the past and still continue. Now, as you see, everyone, we are talking about a state. This is number one important thing. The state started in the past and it still continues. So there's a link with past and present because it started in the past and it still continues, and it needs to be a state, not an activity. Let's look at the examples. I have known him all my life. So knowing someone is a state. I started to know him in the past and I still know him. So this is present perfect tense. She has always loved calm and peaceful activities. So loving is a state. It's not an activity. It started in the past because she loved calm and peaceful activities in the past too, and she still loves them. So we have present perfect tense here. Judy has had weight problems all her life. So again, having weight problems is a state. It started in the past and it still continues. Now, important thing here is the expressions all my life, all her life are commonly used in this function. So all my life, all his life, all her life. What does that mean? If I say all my life, it means the state started in the past and it still continues. So for this reason, these expressions are used with this function. For example, I have traveled from one country to another all my life. It started in the past and it still continues. Now, so all my life, all her life, all his life is commonly used, but also since and for are also very commonly used to express states that started in the past and still continue. So be careful, everyone. We are still talking about the first function of present perfect tense. And here we are talking about since and for in this function. So since tells us when the state started, the starting point of the state, okay? And for tells us how long the state has lasted. So there is a huge difference here. With since, you are answering the question of when, and with for, you are answering the question of how long. Let's give examples. Robert has been a researcher in our lab for 5 years. So, for tells us how long. How long? 5 years. 5 years tells us how long the state of being a researcher has lasted. Okay? Now, again, that's important. Being a researcher is a state, everyone. And it has lasted for 5 years. But check this out. Again, Robert has been a researcher in our lab, but since 2017 or 2017. So, 2017 is when the activity, when the state started. So, with since, you are giving the starting point. With for, you are giving how long it lasted. Okay? Another example. Wyatt has lived in France for 12 years. So, for 12 years is how long the state has lasted. But Wyatt has lived in France since 2010. So here you are answering the question of how long, okay? But for 12 years answers the question of, the opposite, very sorry. For answers the question of how long, and since gives us when the state started. All right. So I'm sure this will become more clear when you're doing the exercises, but these 4 examples will help you understand actually, okay? Now, some other points about since and for. Since can also be followed by a sentence in simple past tense. Now, since tells us when the state started. So, you can tell this with simple past tense as well. But be careful. Since plus simple past tense. Since is the time linker here. Since plus simple past tense. But your sentence, your main sentence, is still present perfect tense. So here you have 2 sentences. One is with since and simple past tense, and this tells us when the state started. And here we have present perfect tense and the state itself. So, for example, Jason has treated me badly ever since I first met him. So, since plus simple past tense. But your main sentence, your real sentence is Jason has treated me badly. So the state is treating me badly. Starting point is I first met him. When I first met him, he treated me badly, and he still treats me badly. Another example. Since she appeared in her first film. So here we have a sentence in simple past tense with since, but our main sentence is she has received a lot of appraisal. Since she appeared in her first film, she has received a lot of appraisal. Another example. Matthew has worked in this company since he graduated from university. So since is linked with simple past tense. Since is used with simple past tense, but your main sentence is present perfect tense. Matthew has worked in this company. I hope this is clear, everyone. This is a very important point, and this is a very important formula, all right? Please, everyone, this formula is very, very important. Since is very commonly used with simple past and present perfect tense. All right? So let's continue. Since actually has two different meanings. One meaning is the one that we have just seen, since as a time expression. Since plus simple past tense, comma, present perfect or present perfect continuous. Now, we have covered this part. But since also means as and because. Now, in this meaning, there are no tense limitations. You can use any tense in English. So, since there is no doctor in the hospital now, we must find another place. So, because there is no doctor in the hospital now, we must find another place. Here, the reason is given with since. So this is the reason. There is no doctor. What is the result? We must find another place. So, this is completely different. Another example. I could not keep the business going since it did not make any money at all. As you see, this is the reason. It did not make any money at all. This is my reason. What is the result? I could not keep the business going. This is my result. But it has no relationship whatsoever with present perfect or present perfect continuous tense. No. Now let's continue with since and for. Now there's something interesting about this here. Now, many English students say it like this. Since and for are used in perfect tenses. Since and for are used in present perfect tense. Now, this is wrong, everyone. For, especially for, can be used in many other tenses. So, for can be used in present perfect tense. Yes, that is true. But in other tenses also, we can use for without any problems at all. Now, yes, we have seen this. For can be used in present perfect and present perfect continuous. So, this school has been the top school in town for the last 25 years. This is present perfect tense plus for, okay? But check this out. For can also be used in simple past, future tenses, all of them, all future tenses, past perfect tense, past perfect continuous tense. In all these tenses, you can use for without any problems. Now, look at this one. I investigated the reasons for inequality in England for 2 years. This happened in the past. But how long did it last? How long did investigating the reasons lasted? For 2 years. So here, for again answers the question of how long. How long? For 2 years. But this happened in the past. It finished. Or, I will spend some pleasant time in Bali for 3 weeks. Again, for 3 weeks is the duration. It's how long? How long? 3 weeks. But I will spend in the future. Now, this building had been used only for leisure activities for 10 years before it was demolished. Again, this building had been used in past perfect, past of past, for a long time, for 10 years before it was demolished. So this is perfectly fine. Now, I have just a few more examples with for and time expression. With simple past tense, I lived in Brazil for 5 years. This is possible. But now, here's the big difference is, I lived in Brazil for 5 years means I lived in the past in Brazil. I don't live in Brazil right now. I live in somewhere else. Okay, someplace else. So that's the big difference. So if I say I have lived in Brazil, it means I am still in Brazil. I have lived means still I am there. But if I say I lived in Brazil for 5 years, it means I am in another country right now. So with past perfect continuous tense, that's possible, or past perfect tense, I had lived in Brazil for 5 years when we decided to move to Argentina. Or I had been living in Brazil for 5 years when we decided to move to Argentina. These are all possible sentences with for. With future tense, I will live in Brazil for 5 years. That's also possible. With present perfect and present perfect continuous tense, I have lived in Aydın for 5 years. Well, yeah, Aydın is a beautiful city in Turkey. So I have lived in Aydın for 5 years. Or I have been living in Aydın for 5 years. That's also possible, everyone. So, in this part of the lesson, we talked about present perfect tense function 1. We use present perfect tense for states that started in the past and still continue today. We said 3 important key expressions are used with this function. All my life, all her life, all their lives, since, and for can be used with this function. Now, let's take a short break and we will continue with present perfect tense, other functions, everyone. See you after the break.